Okay. I have another question that comes up. Um, you recommend last week. You recommended me to the book about shame. And I've been reading that, and it's been really great, by the way.
Oh,
Also a little
nice.
bit shocking how bad it is for me, at least, and for a lot of people that I see. But yeah.
Yeah.
But um, what's really bothering me is the more I get into the subject, even before I already had this feeling that something was off, and the more I get into it, the more I realize that I am not myself at all. Like, yeah,
Yeah, you're not in
sca-
natural flow. Yeah, I know what you mean when you say that. Like, so Roger and Ramesh's teacher was in every given teaching, main teaching was in every given moment, do what you feel like doing, knowing there's nobody doing something. And
yeah,
then when you say you're not being yourself, there's like many layers that goes through of who you have to be.
yeah,
So one thing that I think people resonate a lot with these talks is that what's coming through here is quite spontaneous. It's not going through, it does sometimes go through filters here, but it's not going through many filters. It's like
yeah,
there's quite a natural personality that comes out.
yeah,
And there is filters which I work on. Like one filter I have um, is that I feel like sometimes it's a bit dangerous to give people the full non-duality teaching, and that is a filter that is placed on there which stops me really going for it.
yeah,
Like so that like and but when there's a big identification, there is let's say that with something, so with the feeling of shame, there is lots of layers of the person that comes on top. So rather than in each moment being and doing and expressing as you are,
hmm,
there is this idea of you that comes through. So
yeah,
Khaleesi, my dog, she has no idea. So if she just of who she wants to be, so if she just feels like licking her ass halfway through the conversation, I'm just giving her a cuddle, and she's like, "Excuse me, I'm just going to lick my ass," and showing me everything. I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Khaleesi." Or having, like, or letting one rip in front of company. She doesn't care. Like, there's nothing in there that has a sense of self that has to be anything. Whereas we have this character, and then we have all these ideas imposed on us, and we become so crazy because we begin to be this mental idea of what you need to be.
yeah,
And so in childhood, there was maybe like shaming, like your parents used shame in order to control you. Often that's why shame is, it can either be genetic or it can be that parents use shame as a teaching technique. They didn't even know they were doing that,
yeah,
or the education system. And then there is an identification with you having to be the person that's not shameful. So to you, the worst fear is being shameful.
yeah, true.
And it's not very nice. Like, what is it that I did? Oh yeah, I did something so funny yesterday. We were viewing a house, this
Mm,
disaster house. We ended up going to see a murder house. I think it happens to sometimes to people when they go around to look at houses, and we had that yesterday. So it was like quite an intense atmosphere coming away from
sorry,
the
a
house.
murder house, like there was someone murdered in there?
Sort of. I feel a bit like they weren't murdered in the house, but yeah, the person murdered the other person that lived in the house, like,
Okay.
but not in the house. But the house was broken down, like yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite intense. I feel suddenly like I shouldn't be exposing their lives. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
And um, and so when we went to drive away, my partner was like, "Let's go, go, go!" But my car was steamed up. So I was like trying to get the car unsteamed. So we were wanting to get out of there as quick as possible. So it's like really in a like really quiet, remote area. So I begin backing up the car, and there was still a bit of steam on the back window. The front window was clean, and the back window was semi. So I reverse, and it's going down a hill. So I reverse in the driveway into the wall. And then because I'm going up the hill, I can't get the car to go up the hill. You know how sometimes when you're trying to start the car to go forward up a hill, I can't do it without spinning my wheels. So then, like, the people that showed us around the house and the family were there, they're all looking out the window. And then I have to, like, to leave the house, I have to be like, with the back wheels. You know, when it's so bad, it smells of rubber. So we kind of leave this awful situation of going to visit this house with this intense history, and then we kind of leave, like, spinning the wheel, like, and drive off down the road, having bumped into the wall. That was so funny. And my partner was like, I can't believe you did that. It was very funny. And we laughed about, like, we really laughed about it when we left. Yeah. And that was quite a shameful thing, but it was also hysterically funny to do. But when you have, like, intense shame, like, that is, like, doing things like this, like having these accidents, which happen to us all the time, like, when you have this shameful identity, the energy is, I can't be that. If I am that, it's like death.
Yeah.
It's like absolute death to me.
It's sometimes, like, in funny cases, it's really dependent on the situation. If it gets, like, especially like in social situations, I
Yeah.
get really shamed also about the shame. If it's about my life, my worth, like what I do
Yeah.
for life, or
Yeah.
if it's like something serious that I feel like it could be just for, then there's like a lot of shame, and also a lot of shame for the shame. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really intense feeling for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's mixed with trauma, and then that'll be mixed with, like, the conditioning you received in early life, and then genetic. And there's two things that happen. So as you go through this process, there will be a working out of that and a reduction of that as you begin to understand it and become conscious of the behaviors arising in the body. But the true freedom from it is the seeing that that isn't who you are, and this disidentification with the person.
Yeah.
Because when you're identified with it, it's so intense.
Yeah.
So it's like this spaciousness, like who you are is this spaciousness, not that person. But when you're identified with the person, that is so important. When you're not identified, it's like, this happens, the shame arises, but it's no big deal. It's not death to you.
Yeah.
It's just a feeling that comes and goes. So there's two processes. On the human level, you'll go through a process of calming down your shame, getting to know it, getting to understand it. But the true freedom is the disidentification with being the character. That who you are is this presence, this infinite nature that's looking, that never felt shame, that has never been shame.
Yeah.
Shame appears in it, but it's free of all things, and it's all things equally.
Why does the looking feel like it comes from behind?
Sorry?
The looking, even if I get more relaxed, it still feels like the looking is behind me.
Yeah, that's just a phase that there is that goes through. Like, so when the teachers originally point out, they point out this consciousness which is watching things. So it feels like there is a consciousness that's behind watching the character and watching the world. So it feels like that. And that's an energy thing. It's because you've been told for so many years that you're inside the body, and that looking comes from inside the body. So the first cracking that begins to happen is that you notice there is a watching from behind. But it's a stage that goes through, like, eventually it will be seen. It's like an energetic movement that watching is actually in all things. So it's just stages that it seems to go through. But it's not actually looking from behind.
Yeah.
It's actually looking in all places. And these are different energetic movements. So what you've been told for so many years is that you are looking from outside of the head. You know, not from outside, but from inside the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you are looking from inside that as a character, and then there's a disidentification, and then it feels like consciousness is behind looking at the person. And then there is this expansion where the consciousness is in all things, that looking is in all things and no things.
I had a question, but I didn't want to interrupt you, but it was pretty important to me. Could you give me 5 seconds or 10
Sure.
seconds to check if it comes up?